Yeah, we're
Right.
good.
Okay, we are live now. So hello everyone. It's Sunday. It's now just I think it's 4 minutes past 2. Sorry we're late, but we've had a bit of technical issues and we've sorted it now. So welcome to Ask the Drummer, and we've got Adam Halford of the Train Sets. Yay!
Happy New Year to anyone who's listening.
Yeah, well, I'm supposed to be introducing you first, and then bring you in. But
Yeah.
it's already after 2, so I thought, well, no, we'll just have you straight away.
We'll go straight away.
Straight away. Yeah. So, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah, had a good Christmas and New Year. Bit
Oh,
of
go ahead.
COVID, unfortunately, but only a sort of slight. But I did test positive in
You did?
the period. Yeah, just prior to that. I think not long after we'd seen you, so hopefully you stayed well. We saw you in
I was
Halifax, didn't
yeah.
we?
Is
Yeah,
that in Halifax? So after that Stephen Morris,
yeah. After that Stephen Morris, Dave Haslam talk, a couple of days after that, a day or two after that, feeling a bit unwell, both of us. So hopefully I didn't pass it on to anyone in that audience there or yourself.
No, because I went to the Mickhead gigs in York, in Chester. Those were the last 2 gigs that I did before
Fine,
Christmas.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I know that some of the people who were there. They also tested positive.
Yeah.
And one of the band members also sent me a message saying that he was tested positive. But luckily, I'm fine.
Well, you got to see the gig. We were fine. We managed to get Christmas and New Year done and stuff like that, so everything was fine.
Yeah, I still have to be careful though, because when you go out, always wear a mask and
Yeah. I mean, I was a bit disappointed because we've managed to go to gigs, haven't we? We've seen each other at gigs. We've done
yeah,
gigs, haven't we? With as we've come out of lockdown. But just got caught in this last few weeks, like a lot of people have. But hey ho, stay safe. Let's keep
yeah.
positive, and hopefully we'll be back soon.
Well, I was I prepared this script for you. I was introduce you like someone I saw for the first time in 2017, like with the train set. And
Uh-huh.
I actually posted on Facebook that he had me at drums because you were just so awesome. You were really, really good that time. And I managed to get a photograph with you after the gig as well. So that was just amazing. And I was counting the number of times I've seen the train set
Uh-huh.
from that gig supporting the High at the Ruby Lounge. It's actually 7 times. I think was it 7
Times,
or
eh?
8 or
Isn't
something
it?
like that. Which is really good. But we'll talk about that
Our
later.
biggest fan. Our biggest fan. 7 times.
7 times. I know, but you're off Facebook.
Yeah,
I
I'm
was
not on it anymore. I've not been on it for or Instagram for a while. I think I got hacked about 10 months ago or something like that, and I couldn't get back on, so it didn't seem to worth it to go back on. Still
yeah.
doing Twitter and things, but not on Facebook.
Yeah, because when I was starting this Ask the Drummer, I thought I'm gonna send a message to all the drummers that I've seen or I've met and I already know. And I looked for your name and I couldn't find it. It's like, oh, we're not friends. And then I've actually thought we're not friends. So he unfriended me. I was really like, what did I do? Why did he? And then when I was actually searching for it, I couldn't find your name. And I thought, not only did he unfriend me, he blocked me as well. I couldn't find it. I was
Hey,
like,
you're not the only one that asked. You're not the only one that asked. All the band members, why have you blocked us?
yeah,
No,
well,
I went
David,
off it. So to be fair, it's quite liberating. But hey ho, it's if you like something like yourself, like you do, it's important, isn't it?
yeah,
Social media, to find out and spread the word with gigs
yeah,
and stuff like that. But
yeah.
no, I went off it totally. So no offense to anyone else who I might have blocked.
I asked David Hassel. I asked him about you, and then he just said that, oh, I'll have a look because he's not heard from you either, and he's not seen you
Yeah.
on social media. But when I was doing my script yesterday, I actually found out that you're on Twitter. So,
There you go, yeah.
so I followed you.
Yeah. What's it say? Trendsetter, train setter, isn't it?
Right, yeah.
That's it, yeah. Urban hiking specialist.
Oh, I want to say thank you to Jane, because if it wasn't for Jane, because I'm glad that she stayed on Facebook, or at least I could get in touch with you and things. So thank you, Jane. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Yeah. So last time I saw you was at Preston Pop Festival.
Yeah.
That was awesome, wasn't it?
It was a good little gig, that. Yeah. That's it. Lovely little venue, great promoter, Rico. I think his heart's in the right place, and he puts all those sort of great bands on, and he's willing to take risks. And really enjoyed it. We were a bit at first, I think, I remember Clive saying especially, we're only in the small room, but I said, it'll be fine. And it was dead busy, wasn't it? Dead hot, dead busy.
There was. But you had a bit of a problem with the drum, so like you're running away from sliding away on that
drum movement. Oh, I forgot about that, of course.
Yeah.
Every drummer's nightmare, a bit of a creeping bass.
You kept pulling it towards you because it was like, oh my god, it's so like running away. But anyway, so right, welcome to Ask the Drummer. Episode 22 is all about you, Adam Halford. But before I start asking you questions, I want to say hello to Neil Barker. Neil is my colleague at King B Records. Hello, Neil. He said, hi, Anna and Adam. I'll be here till just before 3, he said. So thanks for watching, Neil. Gilbert Chan is watching us from Manila. So he said hi.
Hello, Manila.
From Manila, yeah, because it's 10 o'clock in Manila at the moment. So right.
In the evening.
Okay. 10 in the evening. So I'm really glad that he's joined us, Gilbert. Hello, Gilbert. So right. So we'll start from the very beginning. So you're not born in Crewe. Were you born in Winsford? Is that right?
Well, yeah. Well, we moved to Winsford when I was sort of about 6 or 7. I was originally born in Leicester. Don't know if you've ever been there for any gigs, but moved to Cheshire. No. So yeah, my town was Winsford, little sleepy sort of town, sort of 5 or 6 miles from Crewe. But within sort of a few years, it became an overspill for Liverpool and Manchester. So I had a lot of friends, and a lot of sort of music influences around there, in Winsford at the time. So, my growing up was done in Winsford, and we knew Crewe, but Winsford probably had a bit more of a scene. And I did prepare some little props because my first record was actually with a Winsford band. Can we see that?
Of course.
The Cause. A little label based in Winsford because we had a fanzine going and a little label. And we put on bands, I remember at a very early age, 15 or 16, seeing like The Fall, Joy Division, playing in our town and stuff like that. So that sort of got me into a band, really. So we were playing, I was starting to play, again, 15 or 16, leaving school, first little band, The Cause, had a record out on our own sort of like indie label. And
I didn't know about that because when I was doing it, because on Discogs, I tried searching for your name on Discogs and it didn't come up. I mean, even the train. No, Adam Halford there. It was like even the train set only mentioned, I think it only mentioned Clive.
Yeah.
And
well, he probably gets all the royalties.
So I didn't know about that. Of course, I need to.
We had a little scene going in Winsford and a few other little bands and that, and we sort of gravitated towards sort of Liverpool because a lot of my friends were from Liverpool, and that's where a bit of a Liverpool connection comes in for me because we had a lot of friends. I had a lot of friends over there. But crew, I suppose, again, had a scene. Didn't really know Clive and the original members, Mark and Andrew, from the train set, but they sort of knew of me and knew of each other, because they'd come and see gigs and I was in a band. And I suppose that's when it started, when the cause sort of broke. I decamped to, sort of crew and started to play with them. But that would have been quite a break, about 83 or 84 or something like that. So a good few years after.
Yeah. Well, I only know Winsford because of that. When I used to listen to radio stations, they have that advert, Fords of Winsford.
Fords of Winsford, yeah.
Fords of Winsford. I used to hear that quite a lot. Yeah. And I went to see you there when you supported China Crisis. Yeah.
The legendary Bees, the Bees Knees.
The Bees, yeah.
Well, that was part of my growing up. I never used to really have bands there, but it was where we used to go and that. So again, that was like going back to my teenage years and stuff like that, Winsford. Of course, I forgot about that. So Winsford from that Bees gig.
It was a long walk from the train station.
Oh, yeah.
It was really long. I was really glad that I didn't miss any of the sort of like China Crisis, because it finished quite early, so I was able to sort of like get the train back to Manchester from Winsford. So that was your first band, The Cause.
Have
you always been into drumming?
No, I wanted to be a singer, or a guitarist or something like that. But I thought I was always wasted behind the drums, and things like that. But my brother was in the band, my older brother, and a friend of his, and they sort of were looking for a drummer, and they said, can you play drums? And I couldn't really, but where'd you start? That's how I started, really, pretty much. Well, a few practices, down at the youth club, and within maybe a month or two, as long as I could hold a beat down, that was it, first gig, sort of thing.
Did you have any drumming lessons, or did you?
No, nothing really. I think I had one guy who I bought the drum kit off, or bought a drum kit off, sort of told me what to do, like, a bit of a lesson sort of thing. But that's pretty much all I've ever had, really, all through my sort of, gig drum career or not.
Neil just said that he knows that Cause single is selling for about £50.
Oh,
yeah!
I have to dig them out. They must be under my bed somewhere.
If you've got a stash of it, then yep.
Yeah, it's funny. It's odd. I do play in a couple of other bands as well, and they're the guys that I'm playing with now, a band called Longsight. I'm helping them out with some drumming there. They're old friends from Winsford. And one of the members, Johnny, often says, like, we should do some Cause songs as covers and that, just to see how they goes. Because it was part of our growing up, really, sort of 14, 15, 16-year-olds at the local youth club, and things like that. It's quite a good era, quite good fun.
Have you got sort of videos on YouTube that I could sort of like?
I don't think so. I don't think anything was sort of live there. There might be some live. There might be those tunes on. If you looked them up, they might be posted. I have seen them because I think Johnny out of Longsight sent me a link to them, so he must have found them somewhere. I think they're on like punk, sort of teenage punk singles, that sort of thing. If on YouTube, like little sites that have all these, weird and wonderful little DIY sort of indie singles and that.
Yeah. So, how did you release just one album, or is it just a single, or
just that single? It was an EP. Yeah, just that. Right. And the label did well. It's a long, funny sort of story and connection. The guy that did the artwork and was involved in all this, and I later played in bands, became and Neil from Kingby will know these guys maybe. There's a guy called Kim Peters. He did all the artwork for this, and later the Charlatans, and Steve Harrison, who joined the band after the Cause. managed the Charlatans and had Omega Records, which I think you said it was Neil from King B, didn't you?
Yeah.
He'll know Omega Records from Northwich. Well, that started off in Winsford, and Steve and that were still good friends and things like that. So I played in a band with those later on. A band called News from Nowhere, before he set up Omega and went on to work with the Charlatans. Because Tim was only from the next sort of village town, Davenham, Malton. I think he was from Northwich way, wasn't he? So, so I'm still seeing them sort of guys who, Kim did the artwork on that course thing, and it was his fanzine, and he later on went to do work with Steve at Amiga and with the Charlatans and Dead Good Records.
Oh, yeah. I know about Dead Good Records, but I've not heard of Amiga, though. But Neil said, that he knows, he knows
He'll know Steve from Amiga. I think he had a few stores back in the... sort of early 80s. First one in Winsford, went to Northwich, Crewe, possibly other sort of towns, I'm not sure. But it's a small world. We were all from the same sort of area, a bit older than me, but Steve and that and Kim, but, played in bands with them and that, all good fun.
So how many bands were you in before you actually joined the Train Set?
Possibly just those two. It was The Cause and a band called News from Nowhere. That was with, as I say, Steve Harrison.
Did you have any sort of like single or releases with News from Nowhere, or just?
No, we didn't know, unfortunately. No, had some good little gigs and that, but the time whether we were looking for, sort of people to sign us maybe, or a carry on from the fanzine and self-released. Again, probably did it for about a year or two, and sort of slowly fizzled out. Got to doing other things, once we weren't getting releases or anything like that.
Right. So we're going to talk about the Train Set, because that's your main band, right? So I was sort of like Googling the Train Set. So originally there were the three of them, Clive and the two of the original members, and then you joined them, and David Hassel.
Yeah, that's right.
So
I think I joined them sort of first. We played as a 4-piece for a while, probably for about a year or 18 months, with various. Clive used to play keyboards, like a funny little Casio, keyboard, and we've recently found little demos of that, and somebody was talking about maybe releasing those very early sort of songs.
Yeah.
Dave joined us, probably about 18 months into the Train Set as I'd been with them, as the 5-piece sort of thing.
Yeah, because you're regarded as one of the great lost bands. There was an article.
I can't think why.
Great lost bands.
Lost bands.
And the Train Set released 2 singles. In is it 1989?
88 or 89, wasn't it? Yeah.
And it's under Dave Haslam's Play record. Is it?
Play
Hard Records.
Yeah.
So can you tell us more about that time that you're in Dave Haslam? So
that's it.
Your connection with Dave Haslam as well.
How we started. Well, we were playing in Crewe and that, and we were doing gigs in Liverpool and Manchester, getting our own sort of supports, under our own rights, and doing demos. And we were really looking for a label to sign us. It wasn't about us releasing stuff then in a sort of DIY way. We were looking for people to support us, and we were getting some good press. And I think Dave, he put us in, he heard a demo of ours and he put it in Daybury. I'm sure he only signed us because we mentioned Daybury in one of the songs. He always says that was the only reason. It probably rings true.
Yeah, that's Dave Haslam's fanzine, isn't it?
Fanzine, that was it at the time, yeah. So all that was happening, and we hadn't really had any sort of manager or anything like that. And a guy was helping us from crew, Phil Connor. And it was Phil who sort of set up the meeting ultimately with Dave and Nathan. And we were putting around the demos of Untouchable, She's Gone, Sink or Swim, various other songs. And they did, they sort of said, it was as simple as, turn up, do you want to do a single? No sort of contracts or anything like that, at the time. Play Hard were, they had King of the Slums. Have you heard of those?
Yeah. And Kit.
Unfortunately, Charlie, the singer, recently passed away, hasn't he? Unfortunately.
Oh, yeah.
King of the Slums, obviously, Campbell L. Sangster with Kit.
Yeah, Kit. Yeah, that's all. Yeah.
So
because I was so I was able to find a copy of Head Over Ears, the compilation, and it's got Kit there and you at the train side.
Dean's, isn't it, and things like that, and
yeah. So that was really good, and also I've managed to find a copy of Debris magazine or a fanzine, and so I just thought that's a really, really good fancy. I think I managed to get Dave Haslam to sign it, and then when he saw it, it's like, where did you get this from?
I think I should have took a couple out. I think I've got a couple still, and the old fanzines that we used to do with the cause and things like that back in the day. I think that was a great little culture then, fanzine culture, and that sadly disappeared, but it's coming back because social media is good, isn't it? But people like other sort of ways.
True. Yeah.
And that's what we were really. And I remember doing interviews with fanzines and stuff like that. And, way before like your enemies and stuff like that. It was like your little stepping stone. Yeah, but we did, back onto the Dave thing, we did the thing, just hooked up with them. Sort of seemed to go quite well for us then. We got some great press.
Reviews,
with She's Gone, and no doubt, as I say, Clive's told this story a million times, but unfortunately at the time, the cartel, our particular distributor, went into liquidation. So we were playing gigs as She's Gone had come out, and the records was in the shops, and it had sold out, and they couldn't get any more released. Mm-hmm. So when people were coming up to us and saying, we can't get a single anywhere. Where can we get the single and stuff like that? And unfortunately, it was all on hold for about 5 or 6 weeks. We didn't have social media then or anything. We couldn't like post or Spotify's or digital.
Yeah.
It was purely physical releases. So all our little tour we'd done, and there was no record there for people to get. And I think we were the single of the week one week's single of the week, next week's fish and chip paper, as they say. Unfortunately,
it's a shame though that they didn't do like repress so that people can actually get copies of She's Gone.
Yeah, well, they did eventually. We signed up with another arm of the cartel. Again, if Neil's still listening, and he might remember back to those days of the cartel, there was Rough Trade, there was 9 Mile, who eventually took us up, Cherry Red. I think it was Red Rhino. Yeah, Red Rhino that was our main distributor for Play Hard, that had gone, by the wayside. And I think there was Fast in Scotland and things like that. There was a group of distributors that sort of handled all the distribution of records, got it into shops for you. Ultimately, that's how it worked. So it sold really, really well, and we were about to go on to the chart show, as it used to be, the indie chart show, and that got pulled and held back, before. And again, there's a lot to be said about momentum in music and keeping things going. So we lost a bit of key momentum there, and for whatever reason.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say hello to Rob Jones, the drummer. He's the drummer of Wahheat.
Yeah.
And the High Five as well. Hello, Rob. And
hi, Rob.
He said hi, you too. And Neil said that he loved She's Gone, and he remembers first hearing it on Tony the Greek's program.
Tony the Greek,
Tony the Greek, on Key 103.
Yeah.
So I mean, Key 103, I remember that radio station very well, but I think the one that I remember the most is Simon Penk.
Yeah, I remember Tony the Greek, Tony Michaelides, was it? And yeah, there was a lot of independent shows around there in Liverpool, Manchester. I can't remember necessarily the Liverpool sort of guy around. I know it's Dave Monks now, but it'd be the equivalent of, could have even been Janice Long. I know Janice played the single
Oh,
quite a lot before she went on to, daytime, BBC, radio. She might have played it sort of really.
yeah,
Again, it were very important at the time, regional radio was for that stepping stone. And then obviously when, I remember the first time I heard it on Peely, John Peel, which was
yeah.
great. Again, we never got a Peel session.
You did, oh, right. I was going to
No,
ask if you did. Yeah.
no, we didn't. We had something sort of, again, in the sort of pipelines, or it was muted and things like that. But, things seem to work against us for some reason, some sort of like, band, Hard Luck Stories band,
Yeah. Oh, you mentioned Janice Long. That's really sad news.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Losing Janice and stuff. But
I think she was a mainstay of, there was Jensen, wasn't there, I think, and Janice. But I sure remember Janice was a good supporter, and I'm sure I've got, I think she was before John Peel then, and they were the main, people that would play, give you airtime at that time of, She's Gone and stuff like that, and Hold On,
yeah. So after this second single was released, and that was in 1989, and how long before you actually did you like this band, or did you just leave, or what happened to the train set after that?
Well, we went in, obviously did Hold On, did Hand to Mouth, did a track on that, and started to put some tracks down for an album ultimately. In Strawberry, probably one of the last sessions that Strawberry did. This would have been 89, 90. And that sort of is the back end of, Never California, unreleased sort of outtakes. And we had to really put an album, or think about starting to put an album together. But again, I think Dave had sort of pulled the plug a bit on the label. Nathan McGough went sort of pretty much full-time with the Happy Mondays. We played gigs with those, and James.
Yeah, you supported them on the Bond tour.
Bond tour, which was good fun. A bit of an eye-opener, but all good fun. We could do another podcast on sort of that Bond tour, but it was great fun. We really enjoyed it.
Did you get on well with Gaz Whelan?
Yeah, Gaz, I've sort of know some friends of his in Toronto, and I've always wanted to hook up with him again in Toronto, because I know a friend of his, Coatesy, Dave Coates, who was an old, Oasis, sort of roadie, and still does a lot of work guitar teching out in Toronto. I met him in Toronto a few years ago, and he said that Gary had sort of gone out there, and Gary wasn't really interested in the Mondays then, but I've seen him since with Mondays Undrugged and stuff like that, and he's so that he does really good. So we got on great. I think I used his kit once or twice at bigger gigs than that, just sort of modified it to my spec and things, but it was good enough to do. I remember him being really supportive of it and everything. But back to the Play Hard thing, it just sort of fizzled out. I think at that time there was the huge sort of crossover. Dave started DJing, didn't he? He was probably making more of a living at DJing at Hacienda and places. And, there wasn't really a call for, guitar-y bands were sort of dropping away, wasn't it? The live scene was dropping off a bit.
Right. Well, you played at the Hacienda, didn't you?
Yeah, another bit of memorabilia coming in here.
What was it like?
It was great. I don't know if you can see that.
Oh, wow. So that was the
I don't know what happened to the other two bands.
Spaceman 3, McCarthy, the Trains. Yeah,
that was something called the Monday Club.
Right.
£2.50 to get in. As I say, Spacemen 3, obviously, whatever happened to them, and McCarthy. They became Stereolab, didn't they? Tim Gain and this year. But again, yeah, we were playing good gigs. We were doing well. We were getting good press. But
Yeah.
we just didn't have the business acumen or somebody behind us or, to push us sort of forward. So really the Strawberry sort of session, I think the original bass player Mark had left. I was doing other bits and pieces, doing other things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we sort of fizzled out really after that session. We weren't with a label. I think I gave up sort of then and concentrated on other work, doing other things. And pretty much that was it. Our last gig was with Sinister Groove. And I think you went the Sinister Groove when Steve came home.
Yeah.
Recently, didn't you? A couple of years back.
Yeah. But it's funny that you said Sinister Groove because it's like Bounce the Mouse on their album. Yeah, I saw you there. So like, and it's funny because Stephen Kenny, he's actually I'm wondering whether he's actually watching right now. I hope he's because he sent me a message saying he's really looking forward to
I'm trying to think what time. It's probably early, isn't it? They're 5 hours. He's in Carolina, North Carolina, isn't he? So he's probably something like 8 o'clock in the morning. No, it's about 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
And that was our last gig. We sort of played. That would have been about 1990. It was with Sinister Groove, and I'd left then, and I don't think the guys they didn't find another drummer or they didn't do it, and that was pretty much it. Train set until Uwe Vegaman, from Fire Station, isn't it? Based in Berlin.
But before that, we go to the release of your album with Fire Station Records, you did this. I found out.
I think I've got that. Snap. I did, and I did some other stuff as well. I don't know if you know. Obviously, I played with the Bodines, drum with the Bodines. When John had left, it was myself and Spencer Birtwistle from Interstellar that used to share the seat while they were still going. The Waltones, I played with the Waltones. I think you had, I can't think of, I did a single with the Waltones, did some recording with the Waltones, when Mark was still with them and Manny and what was the, I can't think of.
Alex Vines is the drummer.
Alex, that's it, I think either he couldn't do the recording session or something like that, but I did the recording from Looks Right Through Me. So if you look at that single, I'm credited on that, with Medium Cool. So I had plenty of offers.
You've got to have your name on Discogs because when I was Googling for your name, you've got to be credited on that.
Yeah, I'll have to get some credits. I might be able to retire.
Because I didn't know about this until Len Samsters actually told me that you played drums on Sea Stripey, and this is
sort of pulled me out of retirement. I won't say retirement, but I had some retail shops, clothing shops. I worked in called Arc. We were very big in the sort of 90s through the 90s to the 2000s. I got into retail clothing and stuff like that. Really, that's what I did. So I ended up selling to bands clothes, believe it or not, instead of working with them. Rose's early stuff, Undies, all that Joe Bloggs stuff, Charlatans. Flowered up, they'd all come up and see me, and say, sort us out with some flares and stuff like that. And trainers, Noel and Liam, early days from Oasis and things.
Where is this? Where was your shop in Manchester?
They started off in Affleck's Palace. That's why I'd sort of finished the train set and that. I started to get involved in that side really, in Affleck's. Eventually had a place opposite Dry Bar, where Dry Bar used to be in Manchester. The Smithfield buildings. We were one of the first shops there. I think there's now where Piccadilly Records is. Just and a place in Liverpool, and various sort of wholesale outlets around the country. So that, and Leon started. I knew Lynn, and she moved to Manchester, and she started, working with me in the shop. Just as like working in the shop, like a Saturday person or a midweek person. And she said about getting into this band together, and that was a great lost band as well, Sea Stripey.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, it's in that the compilation, so like CD called Liverpool Cult Classics Unearthed.
that's it.
And
Yeah.
that's in volume 2, which is the hardest one to find. I mean,
Oh, I think I've got a CD of that. Is it
yeah,
undiscovered or on something like that? Isn't it Liverpool?
yeah, it's called Liverpool Cult Classics Unearthed Volume 2, and I was able to get Volume 1 and Volume 3, but then
Is yours on
Volume
red vinyl, by the way, or
yeah,
orange
it's a
vinyl?
red,
Oh,
yeah, it's the red one. That's
yeah.
right, yeah, that's
I think
beautiful, that one.
Yeah, it was a
I've
good
got to
little
sort of
band.
I've got to sort of like bring it next time that I probably go and see Mick Head, because they're probably going to be there, and I can ask you to sign this, or the next
Well,
train.
we played some gigs. This is how I got to know sort of Mick and knew the Liverpool scene through Liam and Michelle Brown, who used to be in Kit, who ended up. We did some gigs, Sea Stripey, with the Strands. Obviously Mick's and John,
Yeah,
Strands,
yeah.
which are very sort of like revered gigs now, that we'd played with them and stuff like that. That Wonderful World of the Strands, is it?
Yeah.
That they released. That's what the album that were out at the time, and we played a few gigs with them. Sea Stripey.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was really good. Played with, did a tour with a band called the Frank and Walters. Do you remember them?
Yeah, yes, I do. Yeah. Apparently, that's do you know Mick Had's guitar tech, Skinny?
I don't know.
Do you remember Skinny? Well, apparently Skinny's most favorite band is the Frank and Walters.
Frank and Walters, yeah. There must have been a Liverpool connection somewhere. Everybody loved them and seemed to love them in Liverpool and stuff like that. But yeah, Sea Stripey were good. I remember, we had some good little sessions, and we have got some good other little tapes and outtakes. And I'll have to have a word with Liam one day. And she went straight into doing Bad Anna Act 504, because I think she was moving down London. And again, I didn't want to at the time, because I had ARC and stuff like that. I was doing stuff there. But, she thought it was a good move. And I said, well, can't really. And again, that's why that folded, really, unfortunately, just sort of, drifted apart.
Yeah.
But a good year or two, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't realize. I thought it's called Len, but it's Lian then. Lian.
Yeah, Lian. I think Lian. Yeah. If you're listening, Lian.
Yeah. So it's okay. Now
we
I know.
Her at Preston, didn't we? We saw her at Preston, didn't we? She was good.
Yeah. So but you didn't play in Kit though. You weren't you didn't join Kit.
No, it was after.
It was Sea Stripey. Yeah. Right. So now we go back to the train set. And this was from 2015, Never California. And it's Fire Station Records. I'm going to say, Fire Station Records is just absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
The number of, it's like, I don't know how they managed to get all these bands from the 80s, and
I think he just trolls on lost bands of the 80s. He just puts in lost bands.
But I think it's mainly Liverpool, Manchester, all those bands from that era. So that was released in 2015, but you didn't actually get back together until 2 years later in 2017.
Yeah,
is that right?
Yeah, they were the first sort of gigs. We looked, that was like, we might have played before then, 2015, 16, but we never got the original band together. The instigators of it, Andrew Boot, who I thought might have really joined and got back together with the train set. Never did. Mark Shaw was living in, he'd been travelling and living, I think he still lives in Portugal. He'd been in Portugal and stuff like that. That was the bass player. So it was a case of getting back, A, yes, we were into doing it, releasing it. B, then,
Yeah.
could we play the gigs? And when Andrew didn't want to go through with it and do it, we had to ultimately find. I think Dave was on board from the start.
Yeah.
Mark was here. He was doing some work in the UK, so that was lucky. He was on board initially for the first few gigs. But we had to find someone who could sort of replicate the sound, really, add to the sound, which is where, Jason sort of came
Jason.
through.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and that's probably why it did take, probably till 17 to actually start to play, some gigs and that,
Yeah.
and Jason knew of us and things like that, from crew. And,
Yeah.
he slotted in really well. He gave his own interpretation of it, but he did, he did replicate, that sort of sound that
Yeah. Yeah.
Andrew had on the guitar. Very Smithsy and a bit sort of funky as well,
But
Yes.
did you already have all these sort like songs? Because you managed to release 2 singles. So these album, the other songs that was on the Fire Station Records, were they already sort of like there and they've just
Yeah, I
released
think
them?
the early ones, let's have a look through. I think I've got a track listing like you, but the early ones
Yeah.
were early demos and things like that. The likes of,
The Recall.
yeah, the Recall,
Yeah.
That's All. No, the others were pretty much, yeah, that's it. I think the only ones that were early sort of demos were maybe the Recall and That's All. The others were sort of, quite relevant, really, as we were
Yeah.
doing stuff with Dave. And then you've got like
What
Heart
about
Tom.
what about Beautiful Monster?
That was
Was that ever?
part of the Strawberry session.
Right.
Yeah, Gets Me Down, Beautiful Monster, and Tell Us,
Yeah.
and other songs that we've done since. There's a song called Heaven that's just been. I'll have to send it you actually. Where that's just been recorded. Those were never put down on tape, but we had them, the ideas there. So we've actually now started to put those down onto tape and for
Yeah.
release. Or yeah, but that was part of Beautiful Monster, Gets Me Down, Tell Us, were part of that session in Strawberry, along with about 3 or 4 other songs
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
never got finished or didn't have a vocal on. And we've actually, tried to, get things on them and stuff like that. But I know we've just finished Heaven and another couple of other songs that we had from that session. So who knows? In the
Yeah.
next
So could we maybe expect a new album out this year, and then
I
more
don't
gigs?
think so. We might expect some sort of singles and some new stuff. If we can get again, we've done a couple of new tracks.
Yeah.
That we sort of, if we had the gigs, we would certainly like to play out. But again, it's keeping that interest and getting gigs really, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
COVID hasn't helped, but we had that good run of gigs when Never California came out. We did a couple of shines. I think we did Shine 3 times, and
Yeah.
various
Yeah.
other festivals and gigs and that. With the
Yeah.
likes of High and with the Rain Kings. Stephen Holt's band.
Yeah, I missed that one. Was that the first? Was that the first gig you did when you got
Yeah, I
together?
think it was probably first or second. I think we did a little low key show in a place called Whitchurch, which isn't too far away from Crewe, right on the Welsh borders there, and then
Yeah.
pretty much straight into those gigs with the Rain Kings and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, you did a gig sort of like supporting Chris Helm in Nantwich. I was.
Yeah. You were there as well.
I went to Nantwich, but I was so like, I said, I'd probably not go back because you know what happened was I got stuck in the train station because the train didn't arrive. it was from Chester, I think that it's a train back to Crewe, but I was just there at the station on my own. It was really dark. And I think the train didn't arrive until after 12, so I missed my connection. Yeah, I missed my connection from Crewe back to Manchester. And I mean, luckily, they were able to sort of like get us on a taxi back to Stockport
Yeah.
from
I was going to say nobody gets stuck. Nobody gets stuck in that Crewe station. Trains are never ending. The only thing that gets stuck in Crewe are vans.
yeah. It was in Nantwich. I said, I mean, I love to sort of like go to all these places, but maybe Nantwich would be one of those places that I'm not gonna go back
Well,
to.
it's funny you say that. It's our only gig coming up at the moment
Oh,
with Big Country. I think I mentioned it to you, didn't you? Part of the Nantwich Festival.
well, I think I've got to ask my husband to sort of like take me there because I don't want to take the risk again to sort
I
of
don't
like get
blame you.
the train.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
I'm sure we'll
yeah.
get some. I'm sure we'll get something. I mean, we did have. Obviously, I'm in Halifax now. Decamped to Halifax. I've been over this side for 14, 15 years now, maybe, and I was really excited to, as the band were, to play at the Trades Club in Hebden because we're not far
Hebden
from there.
Bridge.
And
Yeah,
again, this
yeah.
is one of our hard luck stories. I think the train set when we were going, we had a date at Hebden, which that would have been 88, 89, in her own right, that was for some reason called off. And just pre-COVID, we were playing at Hebden with a band called Salad. I don't know if you know of a
Oh
band
yeah,
called Salad.
yeah,
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 and
yeah.
that got called off just as the pandemic, the lockdown
Oh
was
no.
starting to kick in. So again, we'll play there one day, and I'm sure we will with the right band.
Yeah, it's a brilliant venue. The
Oh, it's
Trades
lovely. Yeah, yeah,
Bridge. Yeah, of course I've seen you there a couple of times, but
yeah,
watching my head, not really. So like not playing as the with the
yeah.
train set.
Just
And,
a fan. Yeah,
yeah,
probably.
well, another place or festival like Shine On, I always saw like associate. You're one of the bands that I associate with Shine On
Yeah.
because I've seen you there. I didn't see you the first time in 2016 because I wasn't able to sort of like find someone to go with. But
Mhm.
2017 and 2018, I was actually quite surprised that you weren't there in 2019 because I thought you
Yeah.
were the staples or like
No.
you have the train set there, so like a Shine On. We have Shine On, we have the train set. So hopefully maybe next year this year
Yeah,
2020.
maybe. I say we
Yeah,
got 3 years out of it. We always say we got a
yeah.
hat trick, and we played 3 years on the run. I think again it was important for us coming back to get on that sort of level again, and to be. And I think it was Carl from the farm, Carl Hunter, that had sort of knew sort of Clive and what we were doing, and we were back getting looking for gigs, and he said
Yeah.
put a good word in for us there, and. Yeah, it was really good. Again, played with one of my heroes. I mean, we were on the first of the big stage, but the Bunnymen were the last band on. So I can't knock
Right.
that, can I, and
I
say I
missed
always wanted to play with
yeah.
you.
Oh, I missed that one. I mean,
Yeah,
again, the Farm is also one of those bands that you associate with Shine On.
yeah,
You go to Shine On, you expect to see the Farm. And
yeah,
it's like with me, you go to Shine On, you expect to see the train set, but
yeah.
unfortunately,
There you
you
go.
weren't
Maybe
there.
some other time. I've noticed they've had a few more contemporary bands on this time. I think the Waltones, did they play this
So
time?
yeah, they did. Yeah, they
Yeah,
played last year, and the
yeah,
Chesterfields, Candy
yeah,
Opera, of course. Candy
yeah,
Opera played 2018, and then last year
yeah.
2021. Yeah, but anyway, so I got someone called David Black.
Oh yeah,
He, yeah, do you know him?
I know
Well,
Dave. Yeah,
David
I
Black.
think so.
Yeah, he said you're a proud dad to two very talented musicians, of course, the Orioles. But I'll ask you about the Orioles later on. But he also said, don't ask him about golfing with Camel. Now, I found out that Camel is actually Clive.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure at first. Now,
It's
before
not
I
because it's not because he's always got the hump. And that's the camel joke, guys. He probably always has got the hump. Miserable, that means. Grouchy.
when I was sort of like reading it, I was sort of like thinking, was he talking about Camel? Camel. Is it the band? Like, there's a band called Camel, right? But anyways, yeah, I found out it was actually Clive. So he said, don't ask him about golfing with Camel back in the day. I couldn't play for laughing. He said, don't ask. So I will ask.
You'll ask. I thought you would.
I will ask you. So what's that about golfing?
No, we used to play golf. I think we used to play golf. Not as a a posh, sort of celebrity golfing. This was like jumping over the fences, and getting a few golf clubs and playing golf at a Crew Municipal Golf Club. So when we should have probably been writing that album and songs, and that, we were playing golf and stuff. No, it was just part of our. We were playing in bands. We had I don't think we were working at the time. I think we were at college, things like that. It had a golf course by us. And we used to sort of pretty much, in our downtime, play golf, which you think a lot of musicians, there was talk of playing golf against the Wonder Stuff and people like that, because it seemed that everybody was into bands seemed to be into playing golf, in a bad way or in a very rock and roll way at that time. And we did have talks about playing in a band sort of golf and things like that against other bands, but we weren't that good. I think that's why Dave it was more comedy, I think.
Oh, golf. I would have thought it would be like football, like celebrity football or something like that. So
no, this was celebrity golf. Just an excuse to wear all coloured trousers and horrible shirts and things like that.
Have you got photos of photos of you playing golf or something?
Yeah, golf plus fours and things like that. No, I don't think we ever got to that. And I think Clive still had his hat on for playing golf.
Well, we mentioned the Orioles, so yeah, you're the dad of the Orioles.
Yeah, Jane's the mum.
Yeah, and Jane's the mom. Are you like one of those stage dads that you, or
no, it's not. That's the last thing I would like to be like. And I always mention this to people when they started off. I mean, they were very young, obviously still young, and things like that. And when I think about it, they've been playing for about 8 odd years, and they're only 22 and that now, and things. So. It wasn't really like a hockey dad or a hockey mom. Is that what you mean? Or a stage dad? I didn't really think.
So do you manage them or do you
I used to drive them around because we couldn't drive, and they used to tell me to get lost when they'd go to gigs and say, and some of the bands I'd really want to see that they were playing with, and I'd really want to see them, but they used to say, well, see you later then, but don't tell them this, but I used to sneak in later and, sort of watch them or some of the bands. But I used to, it was more, we had the instruments here, or I had a drum kit in the cellar and a few other instruments, and they just started playing on them. And Henry, using the Orioles, they met, it is well documented, just through a family party that we had. And they just started playing all instruments together, and that was it. Our girls couldn't play, pretty much like me. Sidoni dropped on the drums, and I think I told her, right, just do this, like that guy had told me years ago, and, away they went, really. And bass, just put your finger there, or,
So you're a drum teacher then, a drum tutor. You're Sidoni's drum tutor.
Oh, no, don't know, chance. He's a lot better than me. Oh, blind as I was. No, I probably showed her initially the first things to do. And, that's it really, how to put a beat together. And the rest, she's worked really hard and done herself really, and become a very accomplished drummer. But she's done a lot more work than I ever did and stuff like that, so...
Yeah, I've got to say that my 2 colleagues at Kingby Records, Neil and Mike, they're big fans of the Orioles. Yeah. And I haven't seen them. I have to go and see them play. So like live.
It's a bit. Can you see that poster behind me? I think that's for the film.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so they did a film in lockdown, and like a version of the second album, like a more cinematic sort of version. So. And again, they're back on they've just done the 3rd album, recorded that. But the guys from Kingby, and yourself might know of the current hold-ups with vinyl and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
when that'll be out, I don't know, but it's all ready and good to go. But it's planning all
yeah.
these things in now, isn't it, really?
Yeah. Well, I think it would be nice. Maybe you could sort of like ask Sidonie to come on as the drummer as well. If
Yeah,
she's okay with that, then it would be great to have her sort of like
I'm
talking
sure.
to
Yeah,
her.
sure, she'll oblige.
Yeah, and I'm sure that my colleagues would just be really happy to sort of like, see her sort of like talk about
Yeah, you can
the
tell her.
audience.
I'd tell her. Yeah, you could say to her, "Yeah, I know your dad taught you everything."
Right. What's the connection with a certain ratio? Because there's always sort of like a connection with the Orioles, and you're like great friends with
With
this
Jez. So yeah,
yeah,
again, another person that I've played with. I drummed in Jez's solo band along with Cy Wollstonecroft. Funky
yeah,
Soul.
Funky
Cy
Side,
played,
yeah,
yeah, Cy played with the Family Bazaar, Jez's band, and Keith, who I'm now playing with in Longsight, played with Jez as well. But I've known Jez for sort of on and off, but really got to know him over the last through this time with Family Bazaar and playing with him. And he
yeah,
sort of saw the girls at a very early age, and playing and stuff, mentored them to a degree. He just loved coming round. He just loves mixing with people who play
yeah,
music and things like that. So, yeah, I ended up playing a bit with Jez as well, doing his solo stuff, Jez Kerr and Family Bazaar.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think I replaced Simon, when he got on to,
Is it
doing other things.
GOD or other things? Yeah. You see, I've got the sort like this should be on Google. This should be on Wikipedia. So like, because I was trying hard to sort of like look for like information about you, and I couldn't find any. It's like, and you.
I'm like the Clint Eastwood of, the good, the bad, and the ugly. The unknown person. Nobody knows about. Maybe I should get myself out there.
Well, you mentioned Longside. That's really because Longside, of course, is a place. It's near
Yeah,
me. It's not like and it reminded me of Bradford, the band. It's
yeah.
not Bradford, but Bradford. It's on social media, on Facebook. It's Longside, the band,
Mm-hmm.
and it says that it's an indie guitar band from Stockport. So which is where I am. I mean, I'm in Stockport.
I can't think we're from Stockport. I think that's where we all meet up. We're all from, obviously, I'm in Halifax, Johnny's in Winsford, and Keith's in North Wales, Marford, just outside of Chester. So
So no
Stockport
one's
seems like a good idea.
so no one actually lives in Longside.
No, but Keith's an optician, and it's a play on, he's an optician, an optometrist.
Yeah.
So long sight is and I think there's the technical term for it. It's like long sightedness or short sightedness.
Oh, I see.
So it's more, yeah. As
Oh, right.
against
So
place, long sight.
it's got nothing to do with the place. Then it's got nothing to do with
No, it's got more to do with optics. So he tells me.
So can you tell us more about the band? If it's your new band, Longside. So are you going to be doing gigs or be album?
Again, yeah, again, we've had some releases on a label called German Shepherd. So you can find that. I think that's a Manchester label. I think it's more digital. There've been a couple of tracks released on that. And again, it's the case of finding sort of gigs, really, for a band, like us, sort of starting out that have a bit of history, but getting on the right sort of platform, really. We have got some gigs with, or we did have some gigs with Space, but they've been cancelled until next year.
Yeah.
So we have got a couple of dates with Space, I think, in Altrincham and maybe the Chester one.
Right.
So I think I've seen it. Have you seen the train set with Space?
No, not with Space. No.
Yeah. I'm not sure if you've seen Space or no. Do you know Space?
Oh, yeah. I saw Space last year with the Real People. That was the last one. That was in December. Yeah, I went to Blackpool to see them.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Again, two bands there that have been very supportive of the train set The Real People. A lot of people know their history. Very similar in a few ways, isn't it? Really, But we've done a few dates with the Real People, and
All right.
we've played a few times with that, and they've been very supportive of the train set, because I think we've got similar sort of histories in a way. Bands that could have been, should have been, maybe should have done more, but didn't quite sort of.
Well, they're still going. Anyways, the Real People are still going, so it's really good. And right, so I remember, is it Keo on Facebook? I remember him inviting me to watch you in a. I can't remember now where it is, but I think that was during the Shine On weekend. It was the Shine On weekend, and
we did. I had a gig with them recently at by Umist. Oh, it used to be called Umist. There's a bar there. Is it Retro Bar?
Retro Bar. Yeah,
it was like a festival. We weren't sure whether we were going to do it, but obviously we hadn't played for a while. The space gigs have gone by the wayside. And again, we said we've been practicing, rehearsing, and looking at, playing. So I think that was, it was only recently, wasn't it? You were at Shine, I think it was in November.
Yeah, because I think I said to him that it was a shame. I would have loved to especially after he said that you're the drummer. You're the drummer in Los. I was thinking, what? I was like, okay. But at the time, because I was at Shine On, I said, well, I'm going to just keep an eye out and see if you're playing any more gigs. Then I will definitely catch you.
As I say, if you're following the social media stuff, so as and when gigs sort of appear, they'll be on there. Yeah.
Well, I see you at a lot of gigs because you're also a gig goer yourself, which is really, really good. And it's always like, oh my God, Adam's here. So I don't just ask for photos with whoever was playing. I also ask for photographs with you because. But when you go to a gig, do you look at the drummers or do you actually
I suppose.
Say,
I suppose they're used to and things like that. Like you, I've always been a gig goer. When I grew up, I was the person in with the train set really that instigated a lot of gigs. I got to know people. Me and Jane always went to gigs. I've always gone out and seen gigs and been interested, and still am and things like that, and love music and things. So I suppose initially I started to watch her, but I always wanted to be a singer or a guitarist.
But you're a singing drummer because that's Sink or Swim. You were singing.
I did some backing vocals and stuff like that. But I suppose I look at drummers and that, and I've had my heroes, through the sort of time that people who are wanted to be like and things like that, So I just love the whole sort of package really, of bands that they're put it, because I know how hard it is, and I know how hard it is still with my daughters, working that, and how difficult an industry it can be to, be in, especially as a woman as well, and things like that. As a woman gig goer, yourself, it's about being safe in those environments, isn't it?
Yeah. So you mentioned drumming heroes. So can I ask you who are your drumming heroes?
Oh, my number one drumming hero. I really love, and my style, I really like John Marr out of Buzzcocks.
Buzzcocks,
yeah, drumming. And he's become very friendly with Sidoni, my daughter. And he has this, he lives right up in the Hebrides now, right up in Scotland. But I think he flew down especially to see the gig at when they played in Glasgow with the first album. And she gave him a signed copy of the first album. He gave her a signed copy of Spiral Scratch, their first, because he really liked the style of drumming. And I thought, well, if I could have sort of been a bit, because I really liked him as a drummer, and I often thought I liked his little offbeat sort of style and that, and I still think, I play a bit of that. And another guy I really like, Pete DeFreitas, out of that. He passed away. I like early drummers. I love Ringo. I think he's a great drummer. injects a bit
Yeah.
of fun, which I always think I do with the train set. It's about a bit of fun as well and having a laugh. And John Densmore, I've, the Doors, people like that, really love those sort of drummers. A bit jazzy and a bit off the, just doing a nice, sort of good beat. Nothing really
Yeah.
flat, just good beat drummers.
Well, do you ever sort of like ask for photographs with the drummers?
No, I think I might start though. You might get me on Google. Who's this weird bloke asking us for photos? Some Wikipedia status. Never something I've thought about really. I know a lot of people do it now, don't they? And when I've been out with the girls, we've been out eating with them and stuff like that. And people have come over and, and can we have a photo? And it seems odd, but seems the norm, isn't it, with them? But we never got to that stage. Nobody ever asked us, apart from yourself.
I do.
Or recently.
How do
It's
you?
social media and things like that, isn't it? And we're doing gigs and that. I think it's something people do more now. I don't think I ever did it really when I was watching bands, unless ours would be, can we support you and things like that. But we didn't have cameras then, did we, with phones and stuff
Oh,
like
I suppose so. Yeah.
we'd exchange a phone number and not even a mobile phone number. It'd be a landline and stuff like that. And then by the time you got home, did you remember to ring them or you lost your bit of paper or something like that? But
But it's so like good. You're creating memories though, because it's like, I'll never sort of like get tired of asking people because every gig is different. So that's why I sort of like when I see you at a McKed gig, I'll ask for a photograph. If I see you sort of like seeing Dave Haslam, Stephen Morris, I'll ask for a photograph because it's all sort of like different, isn't it? And it reminds me of sort of like, oh my god, where did I see him? So like, and then these photos actually sort of like jogs your memory. It's like, oh yes, I saw him at sort of like that time.
You must have hundreds of photos. Various gigs.
What's so how do you actually sort of like feel? I mean, I'm sort of like asking as a fan. I mean, how do you feel towards sort of like when someone asks you, so like, oh, can I have a photograph with you? So
I mean, it's good. It's good. I feel flattered these days, and stuff like that. There's a degree of that, and again, but it's all about the music, and it's about. I was, no word of a lie, really. All through my drumming career, people have said, "Oh, that was really good." And and the guys know this from the train set. I had good offers, but I was very loyal, and I was I wanted to do things with them, the train set or bands that was in. But other bands did say, come and drum for us, and stuff like that. But maybe at the time I wasn't really interested, or did I really want to drum? And but I've always been flattered, like when people say, that was a good set, really enjoyed that, and it's good, it makes you feel good. You can't deny that.
Do you feel sort of like protected towards the girls when when fans come over and say, can we have photographs with them? Do you say, oh no, we're having a family? Sort of like
really, I try and get in and say, hey, train set. Oh, you get lost. No, they've been very supportive as well. They have mentioned like things in the press, but it doesn't really bother me. I think it comes with the territory these days, doesn't it? I think as long as they're safe and they're in good hands and things like that, I think that's the main thing. But no, it doesn't. It's not off-putting. I find it quite flattering for them, really, as long as it doesn't spoil the sort of the night or the evening, or it doesn't get too weird or anything like that, which thankfully I don't think it has. And they've been supportive of, I know they did something on Radcliffe and Macony a year or two ago. And it's funny, I was on my way to a train set practice, and it was an early start because we practiced. We must have had some gigs because it's the only time we ever really practice. So we'd have been practicing for Shine On and had a few other gigs. And Macony, and I knew they were going on Radcliffe and Macony, on Radio 6 on Saturday morning. And they were doing like a playlist and an interview. And they said, and I came up, somebody rang in and said, ask Sid and Ez about the dad. Adam and the band. And Stuart McConey, obviously, he does know the train set, and Mark Radcliffe, and they both, oh, Adam, where? And I really wanted to stop the car and pull over and dial in and have a chat with him. Where is he now? And I think he's like, where he is. And I was saying, I'm on my way to a practice with the train set. It was about 8:30 in the morning, which was quite funny that all of a sudden I was there and hijacked their interview, only momentarily, but hijacked it for about a minute or so, while Radcliffe and McConey went on about the train set. Yeah, blooming hell, I remember. Oh, yeah, do you remember? And they were like that. I can hear the girls, I think, yawning in the background.
Well, I've got to say that thank you to Jane, because most of the time when I go and see you and ask for a photograph, it's Jane who takes the photo. So thanks, Jane. Yeah. Thank you so much.
She's our tech roadie, isn't she? She set all this up for us. It's not that I'm totally inept. I am a drummer. Why not?
Which reminds me, did you actually get the right books for her this Christmas, or has she already got them?
I did. She'd already got one. It was the Sylvia Plath. It was the series that Dave had done.
Yeah.
And he signed for me, and I thought, how do you hide that from your partner? Like, no, don't go down and get her, because I think she got me Stevens signed and stuff like that. So I got that, and I thought, I'm sure she hasn't. And then she said she's only got the one, the Sylvia Plath one. So that can go on eBay or somewhere, can't it?
Yeah. Well, they're brilliant, those, anyways.
Yeah, they're good little books.
I love the Dave Haslam books. Yeah, he's really good. So, right, well, nearly towards the end. I mentioned earlier about the last time you played at Preston Pub, the drum. The big one.
The drum's moving
was so running away from you. So have you had any drumming disasters? I mean, I don't know whether you actually consider it a disaster. It's just just having to pull it all the time. But have you had any drumming disasters?
I could probably say. I mean, that's the biggest sort of disaster. And I mean, yeah, going back, this is a funny story, I have to say. But this is going back to News from Nowhere days. Remember those? Remember we mentioned News from Nowhere very early on? And we played a gig it was one of our gigs in Manchester, possibly Band on the Wall or somewhere like that. Or there used to be a place called The Gallery that used to have bands. And I remember, and this very rarely happens or shouldn't happen, but my bass drum skin, or the skin that the drum that I was using, broke. Split. And they never split, really. And we had a guy who was like roadieing for us, and I remember his name, Dave Moss. And I remember saying to him, Mossy, quick, make like a bass drum. And what I wanted him to do was play a floor tom or help to fix it. And I remember saying, Mossy, make like a bass drum. And I remember he just curled up on the floor, like I was expected to kick him when he was going to make a noise or something. It might not seem funny, but at the time when I was wanting him to fix this bass drum, I was saying, make like a bass drum. He just sort of got down on the floor and curled up and did absolutely nothing. So I don't know how I even got out of that. I think I played with the floor tom and just the snare until the end of the song, and then managed to patch it up with some gaffer tape or do whatever. But I always remember that disaster. So it seems funny to me at the side, thinking, why is he just rolled up in a ball? I think he thought literally he wanted him to look like a bass drum instead of But yeah, apart from that, if any drummers are listening or know, the creeping drums kit is the worst. Your worst nightmare, really. You try and do everything when you're using a house kit to see that it's all there, it's all everything, and everything seems fine, but once it starts creeping away,
So the carpet is actually very important where the drums are actually.
Yeah, that's it. And I think there was something there, and I don't know why it was creeping away on me or whatever, but it did.
I remember looking at you, and your face is all like really pulling it back, and it was
I know.
Right. Well, the last question is: have you got any advice to? I'm not gonna say to Sidoni because she's not really an aspiring drummer now. She's like a well-accomplished drummer. But have you got any advice to aspiring drummers out there?
Apart from make sure you've got a good carpet and your drum kit.
Yeah.
Well, I would say that. I would make sure, say, because it's hard enough anyway, keeping a band together, drumming a band, without any technical difficulties. So I would always say, yeah, make sure you've got a good setup, because you don't really need to think about. I mean, I'm daft enough and old enough to have made that, easy and simple and got through. But if I was younger and that was happening, it's probably happened to me before. I'd have been mortified, I'd have been worried, and so yeah, make sure everything. And I always said that to Sid, make sure, she's a professional and she does that. She has people doing it for her now anyway, has done for a couple of years. But I always used to say that, and all their gear, make sure your gear, is in tip-top stuff, really. All you want to do is play your songs, don't you? And,
Yeah.
do what you do best. Don't have to worry about all your equipment. But if that's right, yeah. So nail your drum kit down, drummers. Put a big weight in there. Big bag of rice.
That's really cool. Well, I wonder when's the next time I'm going to see you in Jane, because I have to make sure that I get this sea striper with me so I can ask you to sign it. But
well, that's it. Yeah.
Have you
Something
got any
in Hebden maybe, or Leeds or Manchester? I think we're going to yes. There's a little festival at the end of January sort of time.
Oh, right.
I know Henry out the Orioles is doing a solo set there. He's just started doing some solo stuff, and I think that's one of his first. Well, it is his first gig, so I think we're going on. I can't think what the festival's called, but do you know Yes Bar in Manchester?
Yes, yeah. I think I've been there once or twice. Yeah.
Can't think of anything else on the cards. I'm going to see Spiritualized in March in Utrecht, so I don't think I'll see you there.
No, I actually went to Utrecht for a record fair.
Yeah,
I think the biggest record fair in Europe is in Utrecht, and
I've been to Holland a lot and Amsterdam, and but never to Utrecht. And the girls have been there. I think they played, there and all round. And I've got friends over there, and they say it's lovely. So I took the choice this time, instead of seeing Spiritualized, saying in the UK, it was a band I love, Spacemen 3, obviously, But I thought we'd go and see him somewhere else. So that's all I think we've got on the agenda at the moment.
Well,
but things change on a weekly basis, don't they?
Yeah, well, I bet you're gonna be sort of staying there, because what I did when I went to Utrecht is actually did it like a bus. It's a bus to London, and then a what do you call this? So Eurolines thing, Eurolines from London to Utrecht, and then after I've been to the record fair, I went back on the bus on the Eurolines bus.
You do it like we used to do it years ago, the old rock and roll. You're a rock and roll traveller. We're flying now, and we'll probably get a train from Schiphol, I think. There's a train straight into Utrecht, from the airport, I think. So
I'm just doing it on the cheap, because it's sometimes I like going to all these gigs and all these things like record fairs and stuff, but it can be really expensive. So if I can do it on the cheap, then I will do it.
Well, it's best way. Yeah, that's how we used to do it. Used to pack a car with all members of the train set or whoever else and go off to see a gig. That's what we did. That's how we got to know people. Hand around tapes and stuff like that, and swap phone numbers, and can we do a gig with you here? Do you want to play here? That sort of thing. That's how it worked then, really.
Well, again, thank you so much for getting us. And thank you, Jane. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, thanks, Jane, for setting us up.
Thank you.
He's having to lie down. I don't think so.
So, do you want to just say last final words to our people who joined us? And I'm gonna put this on YouTube, so it's anyone that you want to say hello to. So
Well, hello everybody who has ever liked the train set, and we're still getting orders. I went into my email this morning, and there was an order drop there. So somebody out there still buying us and liking us, and we
Yeah.
have got some in music coming out, some new stuff coming out or unrecorded, and some new tunes. So if there's anybody out there that is actually interested in us playing with them or playing somewhere, please get in touch.
Well, I'm sure the Filipinos love the train set.
Who was that? Sorry.
The Filipinos. You do have sort of like I think a fan base in the Philippines because there are
Well,
lots of
I'm
more
not
like
forgetting
indie.
what to going to Manila. The thriller in Manila, we could call it. Number two.
That would be good if someone actually can do like an indie fest in Manila. Then
Yeah,
they should really ask you to go over there and and
that's
play
it.
there.
Yeah,
So,
that'd be
like,
good. Yeah, I'd enjoy that. But yeah, seriously, I mean, we haven't got much on the. So if there is anything out there or anybody with a remote interest, we're up for gigs. It'd have to be UK for now, I think.
yeah.
Yeah, I always fancied a holiday in the Philippines. We'd have to make it a holiday, I think, won't we?
Hopefully someday. I mean, when the world is better, we still have this virus thing, but hopefully we'll get better.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
that's it. Let's hope
fingers
everybody
crossed.
stays safe in the meantime and
Yeah.
enjoys gigs wherever they can.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you,
No
Adam.
problems, Anna.
So,
We'll see
yeah,
you
and
soon, no doubt.
see you
Our
soon.
paths will cross somewhere.
And hopefully, like Mickhead's doing. Apparently, he's doing like a 12-day tour with
Yeah,
the
so
release of the new album. So I'm sure I'll see you in one of those dates. Like
yeah,
one of
that's
those-
it, definitely. Jane actually got me a lovely Christmas present of the Michael head in the Motorhead style. Remember me admiring yours
Yay!
t-shirt?
I was,
Yeah,
yeah.
so she got me that for Christmas, which I was
Oh,
very
it's
pleased.
brilliant. That's
Yeah,
so good. Because I was going to wear that today, but I wore the other one, which is
so was
this.
I think. Yeah, yeah.
Is that? Because I've worn that before. So I thought, well, I'll wear this other Mickhead t-shirt. So, but yeah, that's brilliant. Well done, Jay.
Well done, Jane.
Well, so like maybe the next time I see you, we'll be twinsies. We'll be wearing the same t-shirt.
Yeah, that's it. You have to give me a call. Which t-shirt are you wearing, Adam?
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much.
No
And
problems. Thanks, everyone.
yeah, see you soon.
See you
Bye.
soon.
Bye,
Bye.
Jade. Bye. Oh my god, oh, that was really great. Thank you so much to everyone who sort of like joined us live, and enjoy the rest of your weekend, and please do keep an eye out for next week's guest announcement, because we've got another sort of like awesome drummer for next week. And again, so love music, love life, and don't forget, love drummers, because they're just so awesome. And I'll see you again next week. Bye everyone. Bye.